and welcome to a very special episode of Goa Wants to Know. We have a former Union Finance Minister, very senior Congress leader, and of course, the person who's supervising the elections in Goa for the Congress. Welcome, Mr. Chidambaram, and thank you for joining us in this the beautiful bylanes of Fontainish in Panjim. Is the picture for the Congress as beautiful and rosy?
It is certainly improving every day, and one is seeing that improvement every day. It's visible on the faces of the people, visible in the enthusiasm of our workers. I believe we will do very well.
As far as the state is concerned, and with obviously the past history of defections and many other minuses that you've spoken about, are you confident that you've overcome the shadows of 2017?
See, defections and the stain of defections affects every party. Between 2017 and 2019, we were the victims. And you can charge the Congress party with not guarding our house well. I accept that charge. But then, while you criticize us, please condemn the thief. The thief is the BJP. This time, we have taken a number of steps to rebuild that faith and trust in the people that the Congress MLA this time will not defect. They spontaneously offered to take a pledge in 3 places of worship, and they've also signed an affidavit which has a certain legal effect.
It does,
so
is
think,
it? Okay.
Yeah, not a complete
but a quasi.
But it has a certain legal effect. And I think we have done more than any other party. But believe me, the TMC today in Goa is a party of defectors. The TMC, except 1 or 2 candidates, is a party of defectors. And therefore, the stain affects every party, but we have made sure that the people will have faith in us, that the Congress MLA will not defect this time.
Interesting that you mentioned defections and the TMC as well. What is statistically very significant is that in these elections, and I'm talking of after the election momentum started, I would say August onwards, there are 62 candidates in this fray, 62 of the 300 odd candidates, who are defectors of different parties. The issue is that defections is a malaise that has struck everybody. I'm not only talking of the 10 defections of the Congress, but even after the election process started, people went to parties, came back from parties. You look at your own Kurturi ex-MLA Reginald. He went to the TMC, then he came back again, wanted to come back into the Congress. So what I'm essentially saying is, yes, this is a problem that will exist. The fear that a lot of people have is what's going to happen after that, given the nature of this whole behemoth that the BJP is and the severity with which they allegedly poach and get in. And the other thing is that people say, look, there are many people in the Congress and other places who have large skeletons to hide as far as corruption is concerned and cases are concerned. And what happens is files are shown to them. They get a sneak peek of what's in offer, and that fear is too large for them for any affidavit to bind them down.
See, we have to define defection more narrowly in the context of Goa. This is a sui generis case. Defection, as we have defined it for this election, is you get elected on the ticket of a party, but during that 5-year term, you leave that party and join another party. That is defection. See, after completing a term of 5 years, for whatever reason you leave one party and join another party, that may not come under defection. In that sense, I assure the people of Goa that our MLAs elected this time will not defect. But the thief is there. I am telling everyone to beware of the thief. But we will guard our house much better this time, and we will keep a very vigilant eye. None of our MLAs will defect for the 5-year term for which they are elected.
The another question before I get into...
And I want to add,
Yes.
we have very many fresh faces. In fact, something like 27 of our candidates are in the age group 35 to 44 and 45 to 54, and they've all got completely clean records. I mean, they have no past baggage at all.
So you're saying 27 of your candidates don't have clean records? I mean,
No,
do
I
have
didn't say
clean
that.
records.
I didn't say that. I said they have a past political record,
Right.
and therefore you may allege anything against them.
Okay.
I don't know whether the allegation is true, but bulk of our candidates have no past baggage at all. So
Right.
what can you allege against them?
Right, right. Another quick question on Family Raj before I get into economics, because we need to talk about Goa's economics as well.
Yes.
You see, interestingly, there are about 17 odd Family Raj candidates from 9 families. That's the data that I've acquired, contesting across 4 parties, plus a couple of independents who are contesting. The Congress, of course, suffered the charges of being a Family Raj party, because of which they lost the 2012 elections in Goa. Is it absolutely unavoidable in the present circumstances?
See, Goa is a very small place. When I go to a constituency with about 26,000 voters, say a predominantly Catholic constituency, they tell me everybody is related to everybody else.
Right, right.
And if I go to a predominantly Hindu constituency, they also tell me within the constituency they are practically related to each other. Therefore,
But that would be a
It's-
larger family. I'm talking of husbands and wives, fathers and daughters, brothers.
that I agree, but we have ensured that it doesn't happen, except in the case of 2 seats where Mr. Lobo and Mrs. Lobo are contesting,
Right.
but they are new entrants to the party. But otherwise, we have not given 2 members of the same family a seat in our quota.
Coming to the economics of Goa, subject that you know best, you see Goa's debt has gone up from about 12,000 crores in 2012 to about 25,000 crores as of now. Goa has been also selling its securities to tide over. Almost 15,000 crores of securities was sold about a couple of years ago. It is selling bonds to finance its debts, and it says that we are doing this because we are fiscally managing the state very well. We've increased our borrowing capacity, and we are taking these loans to furnish other loans. The thing is, of course, this is not just the BJP's legacy alone. The Congress also struggled. But how does one get out of this whole debt trap?
No, but the BJP is not known for economic management. In fact, the hallmark of BJP, either in Goa or in Delhi, is incompetent economic management. See, the last 10 years, Goa's debt has increased manyfold. Actually, they are borrowing at a higher rate to service the loans which had been acquired at an earlier rate, which is completely foolish. Say, Mukesh Ambani would never do that. He will borrow at a lower rate to pay back the loan at a higher rate.
Right.
Be that as it may. Now, do you know that of all the states of India, all the union territories of India, Goa in 2020 had the worst GSDP growth rate. The
Right.
worst.
Right.
I've got it here.
Right.
2020, Goa is the only one with minus 8%. Minus 8%. Even UP has a positive 4%. Goa alone is a minus 8%. It's total economic mismanagement.
This is across how many fiscals?
I'm talking about 2020.
Okay.
The last year for which RBI has published data.
Right.
It is the worst
Right.
among all the states and UTs of India. If that doesn't speak of economic management. Now, secondly, Goa does not know how to tap its resources. Yesterday I explained it at the press conference. There are three sources of revenue for a government. Goa's own resources, our legitimate legal share of central revenues, and third, grants and aid of revenue from the center. Now, Goa's problem is not resource mobilization. That's a problem. The worst problem is resource allocation. They don't know how to allocate resources. It's a pretty elementary economics. Either you reduce the numerator or you increase the denominator. As long as the debt to GDP ratio keeps coming down and you have your sources of revenue, you can finance a debt. I'm not worried about financing a debt because I think we know how to increase the denominator, the GDP, so that debt servicing becomes less and less a burden in the future. I don't think Mr. Sawant either understands it or knows how to handle it.
Mr. Chidambaram, see, the Goa has got into a large, slew of infrastructure projects in, highways and roads and so on and so forth, and those are touted as symbols of development. But we also know that, loans were taken from different agencies. They took a NABARD loan to finance the Atal Setu, which was again completely skewed, and so on and so forth. The point is that can a state afford huge infrastructure projects with bad fiscal management?
Give us 5 years and let's meet again at the same spot after 5 years, and I'll, with my colleagues, we'll show you how better fiscal management can support infrastructure building. We can get into the details later, but it's possible, it can be done. There are several states which have huge infrastructure projects with better fiscal management. For example, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu have all huge infrastructure projects, but they're not fiscally so desperate as Goa is.
The other aspect that we would like to look at is this whole issue of welfare schemes and freebies given by different parties. The TMC has done it, the AAP has done it, and different freebies have been given. The Congress has been critical of these kind of freebies. But the issue is, do you have an issue with people getting benefits, people getting money into their accounts of welfare schemes, and if you do not, what is the issue with these freebies?
It is contextual. You see, when your economy is booming, growing, and per capita income is rising at a sharp rate, it's perhaps not necessary to give freebies. But the context today is a pandemic, 2 years of economic downslide, 1 year of a national recession. As far as Goa is concerned, a second year of recession. In such circumstances, the poor, and there is a stream of poor in Goa. There is a strata which is very poor. I think the poor have to be helped, and the best way to help the poor is cash transfer, because that is the simplest way to reach the full benefit of the gift or freebie or whatever you call it to the poor. Any other method is prone to leaks. Therefore, contextually, I think Goa requires for maybe 2 or 3 years a certain amount of cash transfer to the very poor. And that's the only freebie that we have announced in our budget.
But however, the other issue is, how do you finance these freebies? And one of the things that is being talked about is that if you cut down corruption, then a lot of these schemes can be financed. So do you think cutting down corruption is one of the good ways to finance
Of course.
freebies?
You see, most matters should be made universal, non-discretionary. If you make a program universal, self-selection, and non-discretionary, corruption will come down. For example, in railway tickets, buying railway tickets in the Congress government, when Madhavrao Scindia was a railway minister, we computerized the railway reservation. corruption came down very sharply. Therefore, there is a way to bring down corruption. It's not as though there's no corruption anywhere in the developed world. There is corruption. But they have made it self-selection and non-discretionary, which brings down corruption. I have calculated the cost of the Nyay program for the very poor in Goa. I can share the numbers at an appropriate time. It's completely manageable within Goa's budget in the context in which the very poor of Goa are placed. See, Goa has a high per capita income that is built over 40 years. Not the BJP government did not build this per capita income overnight. Goa has a high per capita income, but it also has strata which is poor. And I've calculated it. I can share the calculation with anyone. Yeah.
Coming back to the politics of Goa, because that is the context that we're talking now. The thing is, everybody is now talking of the post-poll combination, while parties are officially on the record expressing absolute confidence of getting absolute majority, but the ground realities may differ in some cases. So, in the event of a fractured mandate, and of course the Congress undoubtedly is looking to do better than it did earlier, but if there is a fractured mandate and the larger national consensus is to keep the BJP out, would you be able to override the few skirmishes that have happened in the past and the tutu memes of sorts with other parties? One can probably dismiss that as just politicking because you need to guard your turf. But pragmatically, do you see coming together of anti-BJP forces?
See, pre-election skirmishes are unavoidable in a multi-party system. We believe that the Congress Goa Forward will have an absolute majority. That's where I stand today. But post-election, if it becomes required to take the support of 2 or 3 individuals or 2 or 3 MLAs, I already have a hint from the Aam Aadmi Party. Mr. Kejriwal was here about 10 days ago when he said he's open to a post-poll alliance with non-BJP parties.
Did he meet you?
No, he said it publicly.
Oh, right.
I have not met him recently.
Right.
Therefore, I assume his opposition to the BJP is firm and unswerving. See, my worry is sometimes those who express their opposition to the BJP also have an understanding with the BJP. The Congress is resolutely opposed to the BJP. Resolutely. We will never compromise with the BJP. I can proclaim that from any mountaintop. But other parties must be equally resolute. And if they are resolute in their opposition to BJP, there's no reason why we cannot work together post-poll in Goa if it becomes necessary.
What about the Trinamool Congress? They are also a player, and suppose they pick up a few seats, and they have expressed their willingness and eagerness to align as well.
Well, as I said, if they are resolute in their opposition to the BJP, post-poll, if it becomes necessary, certainly we are willing to work with anyone. But I'm still hoping and believing and practically certain that we will get a very large number of seats, good enough to give us a simple majority. And if we require the help of 1 or 2
like-minded,
resolutely opposite to the BJP, I'm willing to take their support.
Uh,
The leader of the non-BJP political formation can only be the Congress in the Goa context. I think any child will accept that.
Just last question before we end. In the selection of your candidate, you've spoken about fresh faces, you've spoken about young people to come in. But do you admit that in some seats, the time-tested formula of the bloc and the district recommending 3 people and they're not coming in has not worked?
I agree. In 30 seats, we have gone only by the recommendation of the bloc. Now that's 30 out of 40. 30 out of 37 actually, because we gave away 3 seats to the Goa Forward Party. I think 30 out of 37 requires some credit. I agree. In some seats where we were weak or where we did not have a winning candidate because of certain political realities, we had to admit people. We have admitted a few from the BJP, ex-BJP, and we have admitted independents. Now, the independents who enter politics are welcome because they're qualified professionals, qualified, otherwise known in their area. They should be welcome. So we have departed from the rather rigid formula that I laid down initially, but then that I admit.
What about finally the final question? What about the charge that the BJP has managed to infiltrate a lot of their cadre into the Congress, made them fight or play with Congress jerseys in the belief or in an absolute conviction that they'll come back? I'm talking of a few strategic inputs into the.
Well, the BJP can comfort itself or console itself by explaining away the departures from the BJP. See, practically all the BJP MLAs were in the departure lounge. They were only looking for a flight to take away. Since we said anyone who defected from the Congress to the BJP will not be readmitted, many of them had no choice. But those who departed from the BJP have explained why they've departed from the BJP. And I don't believe they're going to go back to the BJP. BJP can live in its own world of dreams.
On this note, I'm afraid we'll have to end. Thank you, Mr. Chidambaram, for taking time off and walking on these beautiful lanes of Panjim. We wish you all the very best, and you must promise to speak to us post.
I will.
The
I
results.
want to congratulate your paper on the editorial on the Mormugao Port Trust becoming a port authority. It's the kind of politics and administration that the BJP practices all over India. You do something which the people are opposed to. You do something which the people believe is against their interest. But you just do it using your brute administrative and political power. So let me congratulate you on your editorial.
In fact, our editor, Alessandra Barbosa, needs to be congratulated, and I think it's important that we put these issues out before the public. And Herald as a newspaper has been fighting long and hard against this complete state within a state approach that the bill takes.
I agree, but we are totally opposed to it. And if we come to power in Goa,
don't you think that your South Goa MP, who was in Parliament, did not kind of raise his voice to oppose the bill?
I read that in the paper. I don't know the stage of the bill. I don't know whether the bill has been passed to allow.
It has been passed already. It has been passed.
Received the assent of the
Yes,
president.
yes, it has been completely passed.
I'll have to ask him. You have asked him the question, and I'll have to ask him because I'm not aware. I'm not aware of the stage of the bill. I'm not aware.
The bill is absolutely passed. It's been notified as well, and which is why this authority has been made. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been made. This is after the notification of the authority.
Anyway, there is still hope to challenge the act, and I'm sure we will find ways to challenge the act in the courts.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chidambaram. Thank you very much for
Thank
appreciating Herald and its work, and we wish you all the very best.
Thank you. Thank you.